Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to Thursday Bible study, and we have folks on the phone too. I didn't post the number to call in this time. Let me know if you want it, and I will send it out again. I sent it out in past weeks, and so I was just saying that today we're only going to go for 40 minutes, so we won't be able to chat quite as much as usual, but I'm just going to focus on a couple of readings that I'll use for preaching this Sunday, because I'm going on the 1245 Highline ferry, the fast ferry, and a dear friend is picking Ollie up at the hospital in a little while and driving it to Hyannis, and we'll take the ferry back together. So yay! So it's been a long couple of weeks. Yeah. So grateful. Ollie's doctor, Dr. Vivaldi, a cardiologist, one of her doctors at Mass General Hospital, just called once or twice a day. She really followed up with the insurance issues and all those kinds of things. It's just once we get into the hospital system here, we felt very taken care of. I have to say, so that was reassuring. And of course, just like Steve's calling in from New York, our friends in Washington or New York, or to be near world-class hospitals. I mean, all of our hospitals try really hard, but it's wonderful that our little island hospital here is connected to Mass General Hospital, because it has these great minds that, just like when I lived in Manhattan, and I had some kidney surgery at Beth Israel Hospital, and I just being there, I felt well taken care of, like I was safer than I normally would have been.
Yeah.
So let me see. So I thought we would focus our readings today, everyone. We have some people calling in, so on Facebook too. So I thought we would focus on the gospel reading I'll preach about. It's wonderful. It's a long one, but it's Luke 24:13 through 35. And then also, so we'll do that, but also let's focus on the Psalm, which is Psalm 116, 1 through 3. So kind of, if you want to lead us in the Psalm, it's broken up a little bit, but it's Psalm 116. So let me see. I've got so many books here on the table now. It's starting to look like prayers from the attic. I have a library growing up there from every night being up there. But it's been a moving time up there. Unfortunately, that one, folks, stopped.
What's the Luke chapter?
And Luke is chapter 24, 13 through 35. Mm-hmm. And then our Psalm is 116, which is on page 759 of the prayer book, 759. And it's broken up into verses 1 through 3, and then 10 through 17. To call Reggie back. That was a nice phone call. Okay, so let's begin with the Psalm. And if you're just dialing in, we're just going to be a little more focused today, because I'm heading out to the other side.
Right.
So I have my mask on. You can see it.
759.
So on page 759, 759,
Yeah.
Connie.
Right.
Verses 1 through 3 and 10 through 17. Do you want to lead us in the Psalm?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can everyone hear Connie? Let me see. If you're able to mute your phones, everybody, mute them, because there's some background noise. So that might.
Does someone have the radio on?
Yeah, somebody needs to mute.
Yeah, it's hard to. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead,
start?
Connie. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Psalm 116. I love the Lord because he has heard the voice of my supplication.
Because he has inclined his ear to me whenever I called upon him.
The cords of death entangled me. The grip of the grave took hold of me.
I came to grief and sorrow.
Then I called upon the name of the Lord.
O
Lord, I pray you, save my life.
How shall I repay the Lord?
For
all the good things he has done for me.
I will lift up the cup of salvation.
and
call upon the name of the Lord.
I will fulfill my vows to the Lord.
In the
presence of all his people.
Precious in the sight of the Lord
Is the death of his servants.
O Lord, I am your servant.
I am
I
your
am your
servant
servant
and the child of your
handmaid.
handmaid.
You
You have freed me from my bonds.
I will offer you the sacrifice of thanksgiving.
And
Call upon the name of the Lord.
I will fulfill my vows to the Lord.
In the presence of all his people.
In the courts of the Lord's house.
In the midst of you, O Jerusalem.
Hallelujah.
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 Okay. So it repeats the line about vows to the Lord. So that's certainly an important part of the psalm, Psalm 116. It says in this, I brought down another, I always use a HarperCollins study Bible, but then this is the commentary that was up in our library upstairs here at St. Paul's Church. And it says, intended for a temple service of thanksgiving, it mirrors a person fulfilling vows if released from critical sickness or from bonds and execution. Maybe you've done that. I used to do that as a kid. I was like, if I could get through this, Lord, right? I guess I've done it as an adult too, not that often, right? Make a deal.
The foxhole prayer.
Yeah, that's right. The foxhole prayer. If I could just get through this, I'll change my life.
You know, that reminds me of a wonderful sermon I heard Paul Moore give, actually at St. Bartholomew, where he spoke about being in a foxhole during World War II and promising God that he would devote his life to God.
Wow.
He was on Guadalcanal, and so was my father.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's been a tough one. Tough battle, huh? Ooh. Yeah, well,
When you see these as they're selected for readings on Sunday, do you sometimes, like me, wonder why they've chopped out certain parts? Sometimes it's obvious. Other times it's not quite as clear why they would have omitted certain verses.
exactly.
I know.
I'm
I'm looking through the omitted ones now and wondering.
They're perfectly fine.
Yeah.
In this case,
Yeah.
often they're not. There's some horrific thing, some image that
Right.
you'd rather not have on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
But yeah, these do seem fine. You can just do. I don't like breaking things up too much, but it makes it confusing because especially we don't have the printed bulletins where people are following at home with their prayer book on Sunday mornings right now.
Maybe they didn't like the last part of verse 9. In my distress, I said, "No one can be trusted."
Yeah,
but the Psalms are always saying.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they're all roller coasters, right? You've abandoned me. Oh, no, you're right next to me. Oh, wait a minute, you've abandoned me. It's like, that's how it is. That's how it is. So, yeah, so Psalm 116, I told you I used to write the Psalms down and carry them around with me. And then also the Episcopal Church has a nice little edition. I gave it as a gift several times. I know to my sister Nancy one time, others. And it's the prayer book translation of the Psalms, which is, in general are very good. A little bit too much he language for reference to God, and also reference to people sometimes. But other than that, I think it's a very thoughtful translation. And so anyways, the Episcopal Church, the church hymnal, church publishing, has nice little bound, hardbound, just the Psalms. It's nice, not quite a pocket size, but certainly it's a purse size edition, which is really sweet, just to turn to the Psalms.
Oh, yeah.
For comfort and strength is the joy. And of course, there should be, the lyrics really, they should be sung. We sing them some, the choir sings, we sing a refrain. Sometimes I know I
like that.
Yeah, I think we should chant them more, but we've talked to Joe about it. But yes, so sometimes, of course, sometimes people will say, "Can't we just pray? Do we have to sing everything? Can't we just pray?"
I like singing everything.
Yeah, I like singing things. Al and I used to worship at Society of St. John the Evangelist in Boston. Hope I have my cross on. Of course I do. And they had sung mass on Tuesdays. Tuesdays at 5:15. They call it sung mass. And so everything, the creed was sung. It was really quite moving.
That's the way our church in New York was. We sung the creed and we sang the Lord's Prayer even.
Yes.
It was a chant, more of a chant.
Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah, out on Block Island, they're a little congregation. Again, they have 20 people in the winter and 45 in the summer. But it's like high mass is their tradition. I mean, they sing things before the gospel, after the gospel, little lines.
Yeah.
It's quite complex.
I would love it. Sounds like my old church in New York.
Yeah, it does, yeah. So any other insights about this? I like the vows. Whenever I work with couples, I've been working on the phone now still with couples preparing for marriage. And so we talk about covenant. At the beginning of our marriage service, it talks about a covenant relationship, a sacred contract. And so I asked, it's worth considering what is our covenant with God? What do we agree to do? What are our vows that we talk about keeping? We have our baptismal vows, our baptismal covenant, wonderful in the Episcopal Church, right? That would respect the dignity of every human being, seek and serve Christ in all people, right? Look for God revealed in all people, and loving our neighbor as ourself, which includes having love and respect for ourselves. Beautiful vows. So I think that's always worth it. That you can do a series certainly on our baptismal vows. We talked about them in our confirmation classes, of course. Vows. It seems like maybe in recent generations, vows maybe are not as important. I don't know. A lot of our clubs had vows too. I don't know that many details about the Masons. I love the people on the island that are Masons here, and have been blessed to be invited to some dinners. But I think they make a commitment, anyways. In the vows to people. And certainly, of course, marriage vows. Not everyone should stay married. Sometimes it's not possible to do that. But certainly, since I was a child, vows didn't seem to be as essential for people in people's lives to give them direction. I think it's worth considering now, as we retool ourselves. As I mentioned, I love the image of remodeling. The first one I heard use it was Dr. Faith Frabel, our own parishioner here, that Ollie's heart would remodel itself. It's almost like remodeling a room, right, or a house. I didn't think of that. I like the idea of kind of modeling,
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Remodeling.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good time for us to consider remodeling our spiritual practice. I thought tonight, I know, no one calls, you on the phone probably don't call in from Prayers for the Attic. We lost our call-ins. We had trouble with our phone before. Now I have a good conference call machine up there, but I thought tonight I'd talk about a rule of life. Like the St. Benedict's rule of life. Monastics often have a rule of life so I was going to use the Society of St. John the Evangelist printed one, and they so it's how your prayer life, your service in the community, in the world, just different things that it's a personal thing. It's more than just a schedule. It's like what's important in your spiritual journey that's maybe a value you want to make, that I will do. This is how I'll act now. This is how I'll be in relationship with God and with other people. Now, one of the brothers have a funny chapter on community, and it says, you don't get to, it's like you don't get to choose your family or something, You don't get to choose who God puts on your doorstep. And so you have to have utmost patience. They must have had issues with some of the brothers that authored, the people that put it all together. You have to have utmost patience and forgiveness, who God puts in your life. So I thought that was pretty sweet.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same for all of us, even if we're not living under the same roof with our brothers. So This is I don't know who else is, if anyone else is on the phone from. I think Kathy and Joe started their own Bible study, so I'm not sure if they're able to join us for this one now. And so let's turn to, so that, anyways, the psalm looks interesting.
You're here.
Yeah, Preston said, Lord. Yes, I think that's all for that one. Let's turn to the gospel. And
The gospel is Luke.
yeah, and it's Luke 24, 13 through 35. Luke 24.
I'll read it if you want.
Oh, please, that'd be great, Steve. So let me turn to that too. Luke 24. It's one of the resurrection stories, resurrection appearances. One of my favorites, as I mentioned in my advertisement for today's Bible study. Luke 24. Okay, and Steve Kelly's going to read from the phone.
Hi.
No, I think someone else was volunteering.
Oh, okay.
Lucy.
Okay. Did somebody else volunteer to
Hi.
read?
Whoops. This is Lucy. I just got on the phone.
Oh, thanks, Lucy.
I've been on the internet. I've been on Facebook, but I'd be happy to read.
Did someone just offer to read? I thought it was Steve, but maybe someone else is on the phone.
Okay, perfect.
Hold on.
Perfect.
No, it wasn't
I see
me.
that
Someone
Joe's
else
here,
volunteered. This is Father Joe. I offered to read, but
Oh, good, Father Joe. Yeah, I didn't know if you were on the.
Yay.
We didn't hear that you're on the phone or not. So good. So do that.
Yeah,
It's a long
okay.
one.
go for it. Okay. And this is 13 through, because I don't have the flyer, 13 through
35. Yeah.
35. Now on that same day, two of them were going to a village called, how do you pronounce it, Father?
Emmaus.
Emmaus.
Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. And while they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" And they stood still and looked sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know these things that have taken place in these days?" And he asked them, "What things?" And they replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one who would redeem Israel. Yes, besides all this, it is now the third day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and then they could not find his body there. They came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. And some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as women had said, but we did not see him." And then they said to him, and then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" And then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near to a village where they were going, he walked ahead as if he was going on, but they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at table with them, he took the bread and blessed it and broke it and gave it to them. And then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. And they said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us when he talked to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" And that same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem. And they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. And they were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed. He has appeared to Simon." And then they told what had happened on the road, and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be
Thanks
to
be
God.
to God.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks, Father Joe.
Beautiful reading. Thank you.
Yeah, I love this. So there's so many nice images in it. I'll be able to, this one's not, The only challenge this week, of course, with this is that we are fasting in the Diocese of Massachusetts together with the Eucharist, because it's such a Eucharistic theme, right? That our eyes are open in the breaking of the bread, which has been certainly my experience, and why it's important for me to be involved in a church that's Eucharistic centered. And there's nothing wrong with other churches that gather to pray and sing, and we do that now too, and that's beautiful. But also the Eucharist, and I know many people miss, as I do. Those of us that participate in the Eucharist regularly, it's something we miss now, and we'll be back to it one of these days. And so I love, again. I spoke about this recently at Prayers from the Attic. Hold on, I'm just going to grab a book if I have it here. I was going to quote the Book of Occasional Services. You see, last night from Prayers in the Attic, I had Joe Hammer print out in really large format, great big print, the words to John Rutter's wonderful hymn, "For the Beauty of the Earth," "For the beauty of the skies," da, da, da. And then I held it up to the camera, and of course it was backwards because I do a mirror, I'm doing a selfie. I was like, oh, so I need not only my manager Ollie back, but I need tech support. Where's the tech support?
Yeah, you do need it.
And so anyways, what I mentioned, it really hit me when we had this reading. That's right. It was assigned for like the Wednesday of Easter Wednesday. It was assigned right after. As a matter of fact, I was surprised to see it come up again on this Sunday when we had just had it for assigned for the reading of the day that Wednesday. But it's the celebration of the home that this came to mind, and it's the invitation that these disciples on the road, because it was late, they had compassion for the stranger that they didn't recognize that it was Jesus yet, the resurrected Jesus, that the living Christ is in their lives, right there with them. But they invited Jesus. So this is from the book of, Father Joe, you've probably given Blessing of Homes too. The celebration for a home, it's called. And so we throw holy water in all your different rooms. It's really a very moving blessing. If you haven't had it done, it's good for whether you've been living in the home for generations or it's new. It's for you. It's worth doing. And so here's at the entrance, as you've heard me say at Prayers in the Attic, I stand outside. My able assistant Ollie stands there with holy water, a bowl of holy water, right inside the door, and the occupants of the house, of the home, are waiting inside the door. I close the door and knock 3 times. Knock 3 times, and then I say this: "Behold, I stand at the door and knock, says the Lord. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come into the house and eat with you, and you with me." And it says, "The Lord shall watch over you going out and you're coming in, from this time forth and forevermore." Right? Amen. That's beautiful.
Amen.
It's a beautiful
That's
psalm.
lovely.
That's I think that's a piece of Psalm 121, isn't it? I think it's the last words of that. Yeah. So Christ stands at the door and knocks. It's just a wonderful metaphor for our lives. I believe that Christ is not, those of us that are followers of Christ, where God is revealed to us in Christ most fully, that Christ is knocking. Matter of fact, I have to find it somewhere in one of my boxes. We've moved so many times. My brother Matthew, who lives on Nantucket, years ago, it's just a little, he must have found it, I bet at what they call the Matticat Mall, or the take it or leave it.
The dump.
It's out of the dump.
My favorite place.
It's out of the dump, because he told me about the dump years before we lived out here. And so out of the dump. And there's just a little picture of Jesus, and he's knocking. He's knocking at the door. It would be perfect to hang by our door. And of course, that wonderful line, "Knock and the door shall be opened unto you." But the invitation that Christ is knocking, and if we invite him into our lives, then he'll dine with us. And he'll dine with us in the Eucharist when we are able to again. He'll break bread for us at the table. I'm sure, just like Ollie and me, I'm sure you probably say grace before meals. We have grace. I know Connie, we had meal at a safe distance recently. Connie led grace as the host of our meal. The hostess of our meal led us in grace. And so Christ present with us. And then I get to, I think my goal should be that I would treat God incarnate in the world in us, in creation. We celebrated International Earth Day yesterday as best we could up in the attic. And I forgot one beautiful image yesterday. I'll be embarrassed by it, but for Earth Day. Before we moved to Arizona, right out of seminary, my first position was in Tucson. Martin Smith was a superior at the Society of St. John the Evangelist, dear friend for many years, still is. Martin had said a wonderful, he wrote it in a card, I believe, or maybe just said it to Ollie in person. He said wherever Ollie would walk, flowers would bloom in her footsteps.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that a beautiful image?
Yeah.
That's certainly been
really beautiful.
Yes, that's certainly the case in our lives because of Ollie's kindness. That flowers bloom in her footsteps, and that's not a beautiful image for us too, as we reopen and maybe tread little more carefully in the world, and a metaphor for many things in that treading more carefully, that we would envision those flowers blooming in our footsteps, the footsteps of in our relationships and the things that we continue to build together. Those flowers would bloom. It sounds like who's that Islamic poet?
Rumi.
Yeah, Rumi. Doesn't that sound like a Rumi poet image?
Yeah.
I love that image from Rumi. The little poem. I meant to send it out again today. Even that. There's a field where there's no judgment, right? There's a field out there where there is no judgment. I'll meet you there, something like that. It's not the whole thing. I'll find it. I have a photo of it somewhere. When we were on Block Island, we had some Sufi dancing. I would love, if anyone knows how to do that on the island, please let me know. We could start a group.
Oh my gosh!
When we're able to.
When I went to Turkey, we actually watched the Sufis in an old fort someplace. It was fascinating.
Yeah, it's twirling.
It goes on forever. You can't believe.
Yes, I can imagine.
One of their arms is up towards heaven, and the other arm is down.
Yeah, there's something about praying, meditations where you dance too. I guess yoga's like that, and more, I guess Connie usually does Tai Chi. I know. That's kind of that's like a moving meditation. So I like that idea. One of these days when I get
most Episcopalians can't even do a foxtrot. So.
We barely can kneel, stand, and sit. Never mind the foxtrot or Tai Chi.
I don't know. I think a lot of Episcopalians are great dancers.
Oh, really? Oh, good.
Yeah. My husband was. He was. Oh, my goodness.
I wish I could dance better. Poor Ollie. Ollie's a decent dancer if she's with someone that knows how to dance, but that's not me. My dad, at our wedding, he danced with everyone, including the photographer.
That sounds like my husband.
It's just,
I gave Tom ballroom dancing lessons one time for his birthday, which was hilarious. One of the most amusing things that you can do in New York.
Yes, we always meant to take dancing lessons because, as clergy and clergy spouse, we get invited to a lot of weddings.
Yeah.
And so, but we dance anyways. It doesn't stop us. We just, we dance like I'm 14 and, clinging to my date in a high school dance. And Ollie does the best she can with me because she can actually dance.
Aw.
But we do
enjoy. We had a ballroom dancer here, a ballroom teacher, but he passed so many bad checks that I don't know if he's in jail or what. So sad.
Oops. Hide your ears, everyone. We just slandered someone. Okay, so I like to, so this is, again, this is just a time for a little while longer where we can't participate in the Eucharist together in Holy Communion. And so I think it's worth considering other ways that God reveals God's self to us in our lives. How do we recognize the Christ in our lives, the living God revealed in our lives. And so I think that's, I don't want to give you, I can tell you certainly, yesterday we celebrated Earth Day. As I mentioned last night in my prayers from the attic, just being in awe of God's creation, standing at the shore, whether it's completely gray weather. We had the grayest day a couple of days ago, didn't we? Meatball and I went down, even though it was 5 in the afternoon. It looked like it was after, late into dusk. It was just so gray and dark, but yet so strikingly beautiful. It just looked so much like a black and white photo. The only color in the whole photo was Meatball's spots. Everything else was black and white, but it was just so dramatic. I just stood there in awe.
Measure of Meatball.
Yeah, and I guess again in our relationships we experience the loving God in our relationships and being able to reconcile as Christ would have us do when possible, not always possible. If it causes more harm to ourselves or to the other, then we just have to offer it up, as we used to say when we were kids. Offer it up, Max. Offer it up. And so again, I love this image. I must have, because when this, I love the image of the little prince. The Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And so I have those that are on Facebook can see it. I have my copy. It's a little bit yellowed, but still in good shape. A little prince, and it's backwards for those out in TV land, as Ali says. And so I brought this because I love the image. Because it's also because of Ali's healing, her healing, remodeling heart now. And because heart's such an image in Scripture and just in tradition in general, representative of our being, really, of our. So the Little Prince, for that classic line, I think it's the Fox that says it. It's only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. So there's something about that. Isn't that a nice, beautiful expression? It's only with the heart. So when I was down in Delaware, they had, before I changed it, they had their mission statement was that they would want to see with the heart of Christ. And it was a little more, it was a little bit longer than that. It was like kind of long for mission statement. But that aspect of it. And I thought that was vague in a bit, and also, but ambitious, but also I can see where they're coming from. See with the heart of Christ. So see with a forgiving, a merciful heart, to look with the forgiveness. I was thinking, in the gospel, Jesus often says, even I think prophets, but certainly Jesus says, those with ears to hear, listen. Something like that, right? Those with ears to hear, listen. So I think, it's those with eyes to see, look, perceive, recognize the living God here in your midst, here in our midst together, God's presence. And so I like our simple mission statement here, and it's very similar to what we had in Delaware, to make the love of God more widely known. Just period here. The vestry just wanted to keep it absolutely focused. Boom. Love of God more widely known. And then our three kind of, the goals are, as I've said before, love, serve, sustain. That we would be sustainable mission here. Never given, right? During these challenging times for all churches. But even when we're in shutdown for a little while longer, to love and serve, and we are sustaining, thanks to your generosity too. We're going, but to see with the eyes of Christ, interesting image. So it's only with the heart. So with our best nature, our best selves, can we see rightly. And so myself, I was reading that book one of the books by Malcolm Gladwell. I'm trying to think of which one it was now, Connie, because we've been reading a few of them. And that one was to trust your instincts, like your first sight. He said sometimes we're
Yeah.
blind when we get to know someone. People are blinded to once people get to know Adolf Hitler, they're blinded to what an evil person he was. Not everyone, but a few. I think what Chamberlain from England, right, was one not to slander the poor guy.
I think that was in Blink. Yeah.
Was it Blink?
Chamberlain goes to see Hitler, and yeah.
And he was fooled by he thought he was a gentleman and that he wouldn't lie to him and everything. So anyways, I think we are perceptive. We have instincts that have helped us survive to this point, and so we follow those instincts. And also, but to see with compassion. I'm trying to think of the word from seminary. Hermeneutics. They have a hermeneutic, which is when you look at scripture to analyze it. Hermeneutics. They have a hermeneutic of compassion. To look at the world and look at the needs around us and how we would serve Christ with compassion. And so I'm going to head to the ferry in just a couple of minutes, but
Yes.
any comments from anyone? Yeah, because I still have to get my tickets and all. And,
Oh dear, you better run.
oh, no, I'm in good shape for the shape I'm in as itself. But let's, let me just give this prayer of thanksgiving, and then we'll rumble. I'll give this prayer. It's a prayer for the evening, but it's one that we finish with so often. The Lord be with you.
And with thy spirit.
And with thy spirit.
O Lord, support us all the day long, until the shadows lengthen and the evening comes, and the busy world is hushed, and the fever of life is over, and our work is done. Then in thy mercy grant us a safe lodging into holy rest, and peace at the last. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, wish me bon voyage.
Thank God for
and,
Ollie's healing.
thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
And those,
You going up to meet her?
pardon me?
Right now.
I'm going right
you
now
going-
at 12. I'm on the 12:45 ferry. She's going to get on the 3:05 coming back. And my
Great.
my dear friend Bill is going to drive her. He lives in the South Shore of Boston. He's driving her down in a pristine new Audi. It's a little bit small. She wishes it was a giant SUV Audi, but it's but it's at least
Welcome her back.
at least it's not my car. My car is so full of sand that when we pulled up at the triage station last week, they questioned my hygiene. It's sand. Isn't sand clean? I guess not. All right, love you. Love everyone. Thank you so much.
Love you. Have a good trip.
And hopefully I'll see everyone tonight on Press in the Attic. Those are able. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
See you then.
Peace.